I'm reading once again from The Principles of Aikido by Mitsugi Saotome. This time chapter 17, Mirror of the Spirits, the Aikido Dojo. This chapter is really good for beginner Aikidoka who don't really know the etiquette in the dojo. This is some background information about it, and I hope you will enjoy it, and it's something from which everybody can learn. Geography, without question, influences the way that a nation's culture develops. In the United States, the seemingly limitless amount of land and the varied climates and terrains foster the culture that prizes individualism and innovation. The veneration of the adventurous and pioneering spirit is one of the strongest common bonds among the people of the contemporary United States, a country that has evolved into a nation of almost chaotic heterogeneity. On the other hand, not only has Japan throughout its history had a fairly small geographical area to accommodate a large population, but it is also a nation composed of islands. People were and are forced into close association with one another, with few avenues for escape. Japanese culture has consequently evolved as one that venerates order, conformity, and law. The welfare of the group is considered more important than the welfare of the individual. Even the fairly conservative American is distrustful to authority and alert to any power that threatens his liberty. The average Japanese sees authority as necessary to the survival of society, and obedience to authority as a form of cooperation rather than coercion. Certainly, there is consensus and conformity in the United States and individualism in Japan, but the priorities of the respective countries remain clearly different. Understanding the concept of submission to authority and to the needs of the community as an act of consent rather than capitulation is vital to understanding the Japanese character. This concept is also important to understanding the meaning and worth of the Japanese institution of the dojo, and particularly the Aikido Dojo. The word dojo means place of the way. Originally, dojo were adjuncts to temples and religious groups. They were places in which monks and other religious persons were trained in the disciplines and practices of their faith. Eventually, the name dojo came to apply to places where various other non-religious disciplines were studied: swordsmanship, calligraphy, dance, and other pursuits demanding rigorous training. Given the inclination in Japanese society at large for embracing rule and order, it is not surprising that the Japanese adopted the model of monastic discipline as the pattern for schools to train people in secular arts. Also, the ancient Japanese religion of Shinto, which is largely responsible for forming the Japanese attitude towards religion, did not have a concept of an external God imposing his will on man and nature, but saw all things in nature as having a spark of the divine. The separation between religious and secular pursuits has thus not as sharply defined in Japan as in the West. Nor did religion in Japan tend as much to exclude a variety of ideas. The concept of do, or way of life to which one gives one's whole being, came to apply to any important vocation pursued with dedication. Another great contributing influence in the modern martial arts dojo is the ethic of warrior societies. These, I think, are similar throughout the world due to the common demands that war places upon soldiers. In order to make people fit to face the supreme stress of combat, intense discipline is necessary. All armies and warrior societies enforce codes that brook no rebellion. The most successful of such groups are the ones whose members support the system through their belief in its importance and in the goals for which they fight. Warrior societies in which coercion is applied on unwilling members are rarely stable, productive, or useful. It almost seems unnecessary to add that courtesy and strict rules of etiquette were required in all dojo, regardless of the discipline they taught. Any enclosed society becomes intolerable without courtesy and consideration of one's fellow members. Formal rules of etiquette help keep one's behavior in order when one's temper gets frayed. In the martial arts dojo, the influence of warriors' special conditions introduced an additional inducement of courteous and chivalrous behavior. The consequences of a discourteous act could be death, rather than mere discord. This is one of the reasons that warrior societies in any nation put such a high value on courtesy and chivalry. Since Aikido is a martial art whose purpose is the refinement of the human spirit and the promotion of peace in the world, the Aikido Dojo includes the influences of both the warrior society and the religious dojo. Aikido is not a religion, for it has no dogma or doctrine, but it is a deeply spiritual pursuit. The Aikido Dojo is a temple of the spirit, both that of the individual human being and the divine spirit that imbues all things in the universe. The Aikido Dojo must also maintain the severity and discipline of a community of warriors, for Aikido is Budo, the way of the warrior. Aikido is not meant to be an abstract theory of spiritual values, but a practical training that strengthens your courage, your internal serenity, and your ability to relate to others. It is meant to change your mental attitude so that you do not revert to aggression or violence under stress, but instead continue to behave in a fashion that prevents or stops conflict. Aikido is meant to give you the courage of the convictions. The essential elements of the dojo are commitment, cooperation, discipline, order, courtesy, and the faith in the goal towards the members of the dojo are striving. How do these elements manifest themselves practically? First, the students in the dojo must share in the responsibility for the running and maintenance of the dojo. The Aikido Dojo must be a cooperative organization in which all members are concentrated with the welfare of the dojo and each other. The dojo is not a gymnasium where hired help take care of its needs. Students at the dojo must look at cleaning the dojo as a spiritual exercise. The state of the dojo is the reflection of the internal state of its students. Maintaining personal cleanliness is an act of consideration and respect for yourself, for your fellow students, and for the art of Aikido. The Aikido student must keep his training clothes and weapons clean and in good repair. He must not leave his belongings strewn around, but must keep them neatly stored. He should be aware of the whereabouts of his weapons at all times. While cooperation is important, the dojo is not a democracy. From your sensei on, down through the hierarchy of senior students, senpai, and junior students, kohai, there must be a chain of obedience and humility strengthened by mutual respect. Senior students must provide a good example to their juniors and must support and reinforce their sensei's teaching. Especially in a large dojo, it is impossible for the sensei to see the complete instruction of all students personally. It is the responsibility of the senior students to make sure that the juniors are properly taught and that the necessary work of the dojo gets done. Junior students must respect their senior students and not argue or resist instruction. New students come not knowing the ways of the dojo and the essential principles of Aikido. In order for them to learn, they must remain open-minded and humble. Senior students, on the other hand, must behave in a way to merit respect and must not use their position to humiliate or behave arrogantly toward their juniors. The hierarchy of the dojo in no way denies the basic respect that you should show all your fellow human beings. Good technique does not excuse immature and petty behavior. Without good manners, the dojo turns into a jungle, and what was meant to be the pursuit of spiritual improvement becomes a dangerous training. In your personal observance of the rules of etiquette, it is important to maintain decorum and to exhibit a disciplined and attractive demeanor. You should strictly adhere to the form of courtesy that should be neat and correct in your dress and attitude. To get on the mat incompletely or improperly dressed, to lounge around the mat in a sloppy or informal manner, these external improprieties are signs of mental and spiritual laxness. Maintaining proper decorum, conversely, strengthens your internal orderliness. Thus, the dojo's etiquette and rules are not empty formalities, but rather serve to create conditions essential to good training. In the modern Aikido Dojo, for example, students are expected to have their own weapons for training. To borrow anyone else's weapons without permission is a terrible breach of etiquette. To understand the reason for this, you only have to think about warriors who actually fight for their lives. For these people, their lives depend not only on their skill, but on the quality and condition of their weapons and their ability to lay their hands on them at any time. It is not difficult to see why touching or taking another person's weapon without permission was a killing matter in the warrior cultures of the past. A person who committed such a careless and inconsiderate act was not likely to get a chance to mend his ways. In the Aikido Dojo, we do not wish to train killers, nor are breaches of etiquette punished by death. Yet if you forget or completely ignore the moral seriousness behind martial arts training and the protection against deadly accident that etiquette has designed to provide, I believe your training will lose depth and your understanding will be limited. The awareness that life and death are the issues at stake in Budo increases your appreciation of the meaning of both. Your sense of value of not only your own life, but the lives of your fellow human beings will become much greater. Thank you for listening. Bye.